If you finally made the decision to learn how to play table tennis but don't know where to start, this video is perfectly designed just for you. Many amateurs face a common problem when starting table tennis, simply not knowing where they should begin. They turn on YouTube and watch dozens of videos that lack a clear pedagogical structure for beginners. They try once, they try twice, and nothing seems to work out. A person starts to feel like, man, they're just not capable of learning. But in reality, that's not the case. Today, we're going to take a detailed look at the sequence, the best order to learn in, so that from the very first session, you can already successfully keep the ball in play on the table. This video will be absolutely useful for beginner amateurs, as well as parents or caring partners who want to effectively teach their friends or loved ones how to play table tennis. My name is Ivan Tolmachev, and this is a channel about table tennis. Let's go! In this video, we're going to cover several positions. First is the racket grip. Second is the stances. Thirdly, we are going to spend some time working on getting a better feel for the ball. Fourthly, we will carefully go through the first two basic elements together. And fifthly, we will figure out exactly how you can practice these skills on your own at home. Now let's get started. First, we're starting with the racket grip. You've bought yourself a racket and decided to start learning to play. And how do many beginner amateurs hold the racket? They hold it however is comfortable for them, and that grip will hinder further learning. What kind of mistakes can happen with the grip? Quite a few people grab the racket with their hand and start playing like this. Their fingers are placed here, or they hold it like this, or even like that. It really doesn't matter. Basically, more than one finger on the racket is already incorrect. Some hold the racket like this, playing this way. Some might even hold it like this. So however they picked it up, that's how they play. But in actual reality, you really ought to avoid doing that entirely, because any misalignment in your grip will impact your learning speed and how you master the various essential elements. How should you hold the racket? We take the racket. If you're right-handed, we take the racket by the blade with the left hand. If left-handed, then the right. To start the process, we wrap our whole hand firmly around the handle of the racket and lift it up into the air. Next, we take our dominant playing hand and carefully place both the thumb and the index finger onto the racket surface. More specifically, we put the thumb on one side and the index finger on the other side to balance it. We have very specific spots designated for this grip. We must try to make sure the finger doesn't stick out past the edge of the racket like this, but instead it stays perfectly aligned with the outer edge for better control. Then, once we have carefully placed the thumb and index finger in their correct spots, we proceed to wrap the other three fingers firmly around the racket handle. And there we have it. This specific arrangement is exactly how we form our basic grip. Next, it is important to remember that the racket should not just stay in this position. Instead, we need to point the tip of the racket downwards toward the ground. This is the starting position for a forehand shot. And now we'll rotate the racket for the initial ready position of a backhand stroke. What mistake do amateurs make when trying to play from the left side? The finger should be resting right here. But what do amateurs do? They position and lift their thumb firmly towards the entirely opposite side of the racket. You shouldn't do that. There is a small specific groove on the racket. We carefully place the finger right into it. Now it is sitting there very calmly and naturally on the racket. This is our position for a backhand shot. Now turn the racket. And there. This is our body position for a forehand shot. Now, there is one more very important point to make about the racket grip. Many amateurs, when they first pick up a racket, hold it as if they are about to drive nails into a wall with it. And it looks exactly like this. Meaning, if a partner tries to pull the racket out of your hand, it will be as solid as a rock. You shouldn't hold it like that. So what exactly should you do? We need to loosen your grip on the handle, then properly take hold of it, the racket. Our hand, the wrist should be light without tension, so we can easily pull the racket out of the hand. That's the kind of tension you should have. If you squeeze it tightly, the tip will often rise up, simply because you are firmly gripping the racket with these three fingers. Our tension is concentrated in the first three, so we hold the racket right here. All of these fingers are currently in a very relaxed position. The wrist should also be light. Now, let's move on to the next part. Once you have mastered the basics of how to hold the racket, we then need to learn how to position yourself correctly at the table. A proper stance in tennis achieves three goals. First is your comfort and convenience. So while this might seem comfortable at first, when you're playing at high speeds, it'll be quite difficult. Second, The stance helps you maintain your balance. When you're moving and playing, you really need to keep your balance. If you're wobbling and collapsing after every shot, you simply won't succeed. You will likely see a lot of technical errors occurring throughout the game. Additionally, the third key feature of this stance is that it allows you to move much more quickly and efficiently at the table. If an amateur plays, and we see this happen quite often, they start playing with completely straight legs, especially beginners. They play with straight legs and try to do something productive. Consequently, the movements turn out awkward, somewhat sloppy, and significantly less stable than they should be. In this position, it's extremely difficult to move with any real speed and not very convenient to reach certain balls on the court. Another group might watch too much professional tennis and try to replicate those specific positions and stances, which is also not necessarily a very good idea for most players. Because to get into a professional stance like that, you need at least 5 years of intense leg training and professional table tennis experience. An amateur doesn't need a stance like this at all, unless of course you're 2.5 meters tall. Now we'll look at how to find your own optimal stance. Let's figure out how to find your own optimal stance. We start by standing with our feet together. Now we stretch our arms out in front of us. This represents our shoulder width. Spread your legs apart, aiming for a stance slightly wider than your shoulder width, and using your arms as a guide, slowly lean forward. Your knees should be behind the line of your elbows at a comfortable distance for you. Now we straighten up, but keep your feet at that same distance. This is the most optimal width for the placement of your legs. In this position, it will be much easier for you to move. One exception, if you're very tall, your stance will be wider to stay lower to the table. Otherwise, simply move into a very comfortable and optimal stance. Next, let's discuss how to choose the perfect height once we have finally settled on the width. We will perform 3 small bounces, 1, 2, and 3, then just freeze right in that position. This is exactly the height at which we can play most effectively. If you have bad knees, keep your stance a bit higher and avoid bending your legs too deeply. And the next point to discuss is our forward lean. In the game of tennis, we don't stand with a perfectly straight back. That is to say, our shoulders shouldn't slump back like this. Instead, we should always maintain a slight forward lean. Keep your back perfectly straight at the waist, but make sure that it is also slightly tilted forward. You should notice that your body weight is not resting back on your heels, but is instead balanced firmly on the balls of your feet. It is not just on the tips of the toes, but specifically on the entire front part of the foot. This is what we refer to as our fundamental starting game position, or as it is also more correctly and formally called, the neutral stance. Once you've found your optimal stance for table tennis, we need to learn the next step. That is the art of ball control. We take the ball and must learn to balance it on the racket. Practice on the forehand side, the backhand side, and try various types of bounces. Why is this so necessary? First, it is to solidify your racket grip so it doesn't wobble during play. Second, it is to develop better ball feel and hand-eye coordination, which will help you learn to play at the table much faster. Now, we'll demonstrate a few specific exercises for you to try. Exercise number 1. First, get into your game stance. With your arm bent, place the ball on the forehand side of the racket. The forehand side is the one with your thumb facing up. Your index finger should stay in place without changing your grip. So we've successfully positioned the ball. Our goal now is to learn how to maintain the ball perfectly still, right in the very center. This exercise helps you effectively control your wrist tension and keep the ball steady in one spot. Once you have the hang of it, we can start walking back and forth to make this task even more challenging. Try your best to keep the ball from falling off the edge of the paddle. Then you can also walk to the right and to the left, right there. This is designed specifically to train your balance and your overall capability to keep the ball on the paddle. Once you've held it on the right side, let's move on to the second exercise. We'll do it with the left side. The left side means the index finger is on top and the thumb is on the bottom. Again, place it in the middle of the paddle. This task is significantly more challenging. And again, your goal is to try to keep the ball on the paddle. Move your body back and forth and then step right and left. Excellent. Now for exercise 3. We pick up the ball and attempt to bounce it on the right side. This is a very useful exercise that all beginner tennis players must pass. And the ultimate goal is to reach 100 consecutive times. Once you've mastered it on the right side, we simply flip the paddle and begin bouncing the ball on the left. Try to do it 100 times as well. This exercise develops your ball control, hand-eye coordination, and your overall ability to manage the ball and feel the paddle. Look at Masha, you see the ball is flying very high in the air. That shouldn't happen. Please try to maintain it at waist level. That looks really super. Now let's move on to the table drills. The next logical step in our progression, now that we have successfully learned how to keep the ball balanced on the paddle, is to move forward and learn exactly how to keep the ball in play on the table. In this section, we are going to carefully go over the specific sequence of steps you need to follow so that you can master the skill of hitting the ball consistently onto the table surface. The very first fundamental element that the game of table tennis begins with is the technique known as the backhand push. Everything starts with the backhand push. If you attempt to learn advanced drives or top spins right away, without first mastering the essential fundamental elements, you will slow your progress by several years and you might never truly learn how to play the game properly. So why do we need the push? Mastering the basic push technique effectively trains your brain to work precisely and correctly with the ball while learning to control your body using minimal movements. This is vital because almost any other complex technical element involves many intricate parts that are difficult to coordinate simultaneously at the beginning, making technical errors very likely to occur during your early training. To properly prepare yourself for effective attacking elements, we must first start with the very simplest one. And the backhand push is the perfect solution for this. Anyone can learn to do it, from small children just starting out to older hobbyists looking for fun. It is equally easy for everyone to master and will only take about 10 to 15 minutes of your valuable time. So, how do you perform a backhand push? We already know how to get into the proper stance. Our stance should be neutral, knees bent, and torso leaning forward. We hold the paddle in the position for a backhand stroke. How is the stroke performed? We bend our legs just a little bit, so we crouch down slightly and then stand up a bit on the stroke, extending the arm forward. That means our racket is positioned parallel to the net. Step number 1. And we execute the forward stroke motion. Now we'll show you exactly how to master this technique by yourself, how to teach it to a friend, and how to effectively implement this specific element at the table for the very first time. Let's start the training. Stand in the middle of the table and take our neutral playing stance. There, step a bit closer to the table. Now we are going to do a few helpful exercises together. First, we turn the racket, positioning it as if we are trying to align it with the net. From this position, we start extending the arm forward, making this smooth unfolding motion, just like we are sawing the edge of the table back and forth. Do this about 20 to 30 times. This is a shadow play exercise. We've done it with the arm. Now let's try adding the legs. So, crouch down, 1, and stand up while extending the arm forward. 1, 2, 1, 2. Now this is the backhand push, shimmy. For our very next exercise, we are going to need a full basket of balls. If you don't have many balls, just take what you have. First, carefully bounce the ball on your side of the table and perform a steady forward push. Then, simply drop it down and use your racket to push the ball all the way over to the other side of the net. This is the absolute fundamental first exercise that you need to practice for mastering every single stroke in the sport of table tennis. This is where you practice control, accuracy, and learn how to make contact with the ball. Take your time and approach this specific task very calmly. You can practice doing around 50 individual strokes just like this, and once you feel comfortable, you can move on to much harder things. The second version of this task is when we perform it together with a partner or perhaps with someone we want to teach. Now, Masha will drop the ball on her side of the court and perform the same thing, and my job is to focus and hit that ball back to her. Let's do it once. Ready, Masha? Masha drops it, gives it a gentle push, whoops, and then I push it right back to her. So my goal is to hit the top of the table just once. There we go now. Masha successfully hits the first stroke, and I return the ball coming right back at me. After that, Masha and I switch. Now I'll do the exact same thing for Masha, and her primary job is to return it. I pushed the ball, she returned it. I pushed the ball, she returned it. Once we've got that down, we try to work on consistency. What does consistency mean? It's really all about the total number of repetitions. We'll start by trying to keep the ball moving back and forth just like this. We begin with only 2 hits and then gradually increase the count as we go. And that is exactly how we go about building the proper technique from the ground up. You see, in just a few short minutes of practice, we can already manage to keep the ball moving consistently on the table. This fundamental skill is truly where all of table tennis begins for every player. And from that solid foundation, all of the other advanced techniques are gradually built up over time. Now let's look at another element, which is the forehand push. Once you've mastered the backhand push and can consistently keep the ball on the table, we need to learn how to play with the other side. And this is where an important element called the forehand push comes into play to help us out. The forehand push is the foundation for drives and top spins, and it helps develop a feel for the ball specifically with the forehand side. Come on, Masha, let's keep it going. They're just calmly hitting it back and forth. So, the primary objective we are focusing on today is to learn how to control the ball specifically by using the forehand side of your racket face. Such as once you have successfully learned how to play the backhand, you will then learn to play the forehand, and you should perform the exercises in the exact same sequence. Meaning, you gently toss the ball up into the air just a little bit and your partner hits it back to you. Then you switch roles. Your partner tosses the ball and you hit the ball back over to them as well. Now, for those of you who feel stuck and want to make a significant leap forward in your table tennis journey, I have prepared a comprehensive training system just for you. With this system, you can master all the essential basic elements, learn to play for points effectively, and even get personalized feedback from me on how correctly you are performing your strokes. You can check out this entire system via the link provided in the description below. And what can we practice at home so we don't lose our skills after playing at the table? The first thing is practicing ball bouncing. Bouncing the ball helps you train your overall feel for it, develop your hand-eye coordination, and ensures you don't forget how to hold the racket properly. You can do forehand bounces or you can do backhand bounces. The second useful exercise you can practice at home for ball feel is playing against a wall. We take a ball and use pushes to play, specifically against the wall. First, we get into our stance and try to hit the center of the ball with the center of the racket. You can practice your backhand pushes this way, and you can also practice your forehand pushes in the exact same way. And the third type of exercise is imitation. What does imitation mean? It's repeating the stroke without a ball or a table. So we get into our stance and imagine as if we're hitting the ball. We can practice these drills from one stationary spot, or we can do them while moving around the court. We can focus on the forehand side alone, or we can choose to alternate between sides. It is very much like shadow boxing in the sport of boxing. Today, we have figured out exactly what this first training session consists of and the proper sequence you should follow. First is the grip. Second is the stance. Third is ball control. Fourth is playing at the table. And the fifth important step is consistently reinforcing and practicing the exercises at home. With that, our video is finally coming to an end. Please consider giving this video a like, share this with your friends who are just starting to play table tennis, and tell us in the comments what specific difficulties you're facing in mastering this incredibly fast-paced and exciting sport. Don't forget to subscribe to our Telegram channels. I regularly post interesting and useful content on Max as well as on Vkontakte and Rutube. I also share my video content there regularly. I truly hope that you enjoy your training session today. See you in the next lessons. My name is, and I'm Ivan Tolmachev.